Travel nursing can bring you to places you've never been before. Tell us your story.
Hi there, it's Rita at the Travel Nurse Channel, and it's actually Monday, not Tuesday. I realized pretty late yesterday that I made commitments for my mom's care tomorrow, and so normally the Travel Nurse Channel is live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, but this week it's Monday, so I apologize if you wanted to tune in. Oh, let me get the comment line open. And yeah, I apologize this week that I had to make the switch. So here we are, the Travel Nurse Channel. We are here for nurses, therapists, technicians, doctors, healthcare workers of all sizes and shapes and skills. We are here to just kind of talk about what it's like out there in the healthcare field. And let me just start off by saying thank you to everyone. Little cloudiness on one of my lenses. Let's fix that. It's a little better. We're here to connect and to I don't want to say influence, but share stories. When you're traveling, you are working hard and maybe seeking a little adventure, a little, yeah, adventure, I think, that's what travel is all about. You learn, you share, you teach, and you see different things. So if you're from a city, you may be going to somewhere rural. If you're from the East Coast, you may be trying the West Coast. If you're in the middle, you might want something exotic. And there are assignments in Alaska and Hawaii and all around the nation, actually internationally, but I have very little information on international. I did, by the way, the Travel Nurse Channel has archives in YouTube and Facebook, so you can scroll through, and we title them. Today we titled Ins and Outs, Pros and Cons of Traveling, but if you're looking for something international, I did have sites, a little bit of information that I shared because people asked, but not in my career of clinical nursing and clinical counseling and managing travel and per diem nurses for many years and being a clinical nurse for many years myself, and not really ever completely hung up my stethoscope. But at any rate, if you look in the archives and if that's of interest to you, it should be in there because we've been doing this for a couple of years. We invite you, if you're a travel nurse or you know a travel nurse or you're thinking about travel nursing, if you're a rad tech, if you're an ultrasound tech, if you're an MRI tech, if you're a doctor, anybody that takes assignments away from home and does what they do best professionally, we're here for you. And if you would like to, if you are a recruiter, if you're a recruiting company, if you are a travel nurse company or a travel therapist company. There are companies that really just focus primarily on respiratory therapy, for example. So if you are in any of those groups and you would like to sponsor, you can, for a very nominal fee, I think it's like $29.95 or something, you can, or 27, I don't know, but go to www.travelnursechannel.com and or call 800-737-6518 and find out how you can sponsor, because many people join us every week or every day or when they get a chance, because everything is stored on Facebook and YouTube, to reach out to more nurses. So we are here for the people that are traveling and the people that are hiring the people to travel. So not to be too repetitive, but I like to say that because I don't know if this is your first time. And my name's Rita. I'm a nurse, and I've been a nurse for like 100 years. I started in 1977, and I never really stopped. It's been a joy, and there have been good times, there have been bad times, there have been sad times, there have been fun times, and that's what I thought I'd talk about. I want to say that a lot of the information I get that I share with you is either from my own experience, the experience of my, I'm going to say cohorts, colleagues seems a little bit more professional, stories that I've experienced or they've experienced and shared with me. But I do get my empirical data from solid places, news broadcasts, and Center for Disease Control, and NLN, National League of Nurses, and various solid places. But I do peruse other areas, and I think that you would find, Blue Pipes is another place I go to. And so I do want to say to you that please come visit us and we will share things with you. But also look around and see what appeals to you. There's a NICU nurse out there. I think her blog or her site is called Nurse Liz or something. And she started traveling. She's primarily NICU. And anyway, so I have seen these sites that are going to be very specific, and it may be specific to what you do. I'm looking for my Kleenex and not finding it, because now I have an itch right there, right? So now I have to wash my hands. You'll always see me washing my hands because I'm a little bit of a fidgeter and a picker, and I never know the moment my video is over if I'm going to run into anyone. So I wash my hands right here on camera. Done. Okay. So, okay, ins and outs, ups and downs. One of the things, a lot of pros, a lot of pros occur for the travel nurse, but there are some cons too. And so I like to talk about the ins and outs, because going in prepared is your best bet. And what can you do to prepare? Well, and I've talked about this before, but I hope I'm not too redundant, but I think that these things are going to be really, really helpful, particularly if you're considering travel nursing, and or if you're maybe a newbie, maybe you're a new grad, and you're thinking, I want to do that, you know. So how do you prepare? New grads, I want to say there may be a few companies out there that will work with you, but most are going to be seeking, particularly in the acute setting, meaning the hospital, the acute settings in the hospitals, and subacute and long-term are a little different. There may be opportunities there, but you have to think about what is your goal? What has been your dream? What do you want to do with your career? And if it is, say, cardiac care, if it is oncology, if it is intensive care or emergent care, emergency room, emergency department nursing, trauma nursing, if those are things you want, I would suggest that you get a good, solid year or two before you consider traveling. However, these are different times, aren't they? We've been in a pandemic situation now for more than a year, right? My grandbaby, we just celebrated her birthday because all of my daughter's in-laws were here this weekend. But her birthday is March 23rd, and I remember it clearly. It was devastating that I couldn't help my daughter through any of that labor, except the labor she did at home, because I couldn't enter the hospital. So we are a year into this pandemic that we know of, right? And still practicing a lot of social distancing and masking, and still seeing a lot of patients in the hospitals. and clinics, and very devastatingly ill, many of them. Some success stories, but many just devastatingly ill. So a year in, they are different times. And if this is the time you decide to travel, then you could maybe work with someone, depending on what kind of education you had and preceptorship you had. So back to the ins and outs. First thing you do, in my opinion, is decide what you want. Okay? You decide, I'm in Minnesota, or I'm in a northern climate, I'm in Michigan, or what other northern, even the East Coast, Maine and Rhode Island, it gets pretty cold. Connecticut, they get lots of snow, the Adirondacks. Okay, so you're in a, you're tired of your winter. You know, you had one day where it hit 60 and the sunshine shone for a couple hours. You say, that's what I want. I want to go someplace when I have a day off, I can just soak up the rays. Okay, so first thing you want is you want a different climate. You want warmer climates. So you're looking at the southern states, Florida, maybe Texas, maybe California. Who else has warm weather? New Orleans, maybe. But at any rate, you decide you want to, Hawaii. So you decide, number one, I do want warmer weather. I want to see more sun. Two, I want to work in long-term care, or I want to work in acute care. And then three, what companies do I want to work with? Because there are over 300, over 360, I believe, a company for every day of the year. And then some are specialized and some are not. Well, here we go. What is a nurse practitioner? And Gollum saying, how are you doing? I'm doing well, Gollum. Gollum, we're talking to Gollum from across the world. He is in, where are you, Gollum? I was going to say Pakistan. I don't think that's right. I'm seeing practitioner. I am what many would call a seasoned nurse. When I received my BSN in '81, I had luck on my side and landed my dream job in labor and delivery. Yeah, labor and delivery nurses, they stay there. They love what they are doing, which is exactly where I'd hoped to be someday. My learning curve. Oh, her name is Pat, RN. Nice. Yeah. Okay. A nurse practitioner. First question. Hi, Gollum. I want to say I knew where you were. He's far away. But at any rate, what is a nurse practitioner is one question, so I'll answer that. A nurse practitioner is a master's level prepared nurse that prepares to and specializes either in family care or pediatric care, or there's various genres for the nurse practitioner. So they're a master's prepared nurse. There's also the physician's assistant, very, very similar, also master level prepared. Both usually work in medical practices, like many orthopedic doctors, surgical doctors, they will work with a PA or a nurse practitioner. Bangladesh, thank you. I forgot. I hope I get to visit you there someday. And you're welcome here in Southern California. I was thinking of you this morning because I had some fruit salad with mango in it. So I think it came from the Philippines, however, not Bangladesh. All right, so nurse practitioners, master's level prepared nurses, either in a specialty of obstetrics or family practice, etc. Okay, and so those nurses work in various capacities. You might have them in the ER, you might have them in the NICU, you might have them in a clinic setting. So nurse practitioners are super, super helpful. And some RNs go on to be nurse practitioners, and some are goaling for that immediately when they start their education. So it does take a little longer and more study and higher level of knowledge and certificate. Okay. And then this nurse Pat that says, practitioner, I am what many would call a seasoned nurse. I received a BSN in '81. I had luck on my side, landed my dream job, labor and delivery, which is exactly where I'd hoped to be someday. And then there's more. So I think she may have gone on to get her nurse practitioner in labor and delivery. So yeah, all the labor and delivery nurses I know found labor and delivery and stayed there. And I get it. I get it. It's very, very special. And can be quite critical. When things go bad in labor delivery, they go pretty bad very quickly. So most births are not, but you know, it's a natural thing, and it takes a long time for some of us. And so there you go. All right, so the ins and outs. So the ins are being as prepared and knowing as much as possible before you just say one day, I've had it. We keep having the same meetings. Nothing gets done. I've been at this job for 5 years. Enough. I'm going to go travel. I'm going to have an adventure. I'm going to make some better money and buy a new car, whatever. Whatever your reason is for choosing travel, do your homework. So number one, know what you want, because you can't call up a travel company and say, I'd like to travel. And they say, where? You know, and you have no idea. So decide where you want to go, okay? And be a little flexible. I would like to go where it's warm. So my first choice is Florida. My second choice is Georgia. My third choice is Texas, whatever. Or I want to go to Southern California or Hawaii. Those are my main choices. Arizona is nice and warm and dry and beautiful. So, so decide where you would like to travel. 2, do your homework on travel companies. Do you want lots and lots of options? You want to work with a bigger company? Do you want to work with a company? Maybe if you chose Arizona, there are companies that are very practiced and focus primarily on travel assignments in Arizona. So that might be someplace for you to investigate, companies that are specific to the area that you want to go to. Also, okay, so you know where you want to go. You are experienced. Let's say you have 5 years of experience and you've been working in a certain area, so you know that's, but now there's more to it. You don't just pack your bag and go off. Oh, no. You need a license. You need a license for that particular state, so you need to find out about that. So you find a company, you decide where you want to go, you find a reputable company to work with, and you get introduced to a recruiter, and then you have to take the next steps. What kind of testing is required? What kind of profile are they looking for? Do I meet the requirements of the profile? For the practice that I do, which is a step-down cardiac practice, say, post-acute care cardiac, telemetry, maybe, you know, not ICU, but the step-down, that's your area. I love that area myself, actually. So are there any additional requirements other than what I carry, which is my ACLS and my dysrhythmia certificate and so forth? Will I be tested? Do I need additional certificates? How long will it take me to get a license? Does the company help with that? So you want to figure all these things out. Then the other thing is salary. You've heard such great things, nurses paying off their loans after going to for their bachelor's and struggling and paying loans and so forth. I'd like to get out of debt or save up for the next thing, you know, Christmas or a car or whatever, a wedding. So, so you need to talk money. And then you've heard about sign-on bonuses, and you've heard about housing stipends and cars to drive while you're away and so forth. So ask all these questions. Some things are simple, some are less simple. Maybe you have a savings account where you're currently working. What do you do with that? There are a lot of little details to be worked out. So know what's important to you. Maybe housing isn't important. Maybe you have a little fifth wheel or a motorhome. maybe you're really good at finding Airbnbs. Maybe you've done that in your travel, in your vacationing experience. So find out how that works. I think that we have some sponsors on the Travel Nurse Channel website that offer housing. So look there. There might be some resources there. So lots of the ins are knowing what you want and being well prepared before you arrive, and then so when the business of travel nursing is sort of behind you, then you can enjoy the experience of travel nursing, which is, your actual practice, doing what you do best. We're talking about a cardiac progressive care units, could be labor and delivery, could be med surge, could be any number of different areas that you specialize in. And so you get to share, you become, you share your tips and your secrets and the things you've experienced during your practice and your education, and then you may learn from others. So just like these nurses I was mentioning, Nurse Liz, I think her name is, the NICU nurse, she started blogging because she had so much experience and she loved NICU, and she started traveling. There are other nurses that blog about traveling as a family, doing travel nursing, how that works. I talked about that in one of our episodes about a travel couple with their first child, and how the husband was not the nurse, the wife was the nurse. I think she was a NICU nurse and worked nights. And so the husband did all this background. He figured out the ins and outs, and that was his commitment to the travel nursing family, is that he would find the Airbnb and he would locate them close to where his wife was working, and made sure he was close to a library and a park, and where he could work out inexpensively. And his, I think the child was 1.5 or 2.5, so she was a preschooler, and where there were accommodations for her, and they could walk everywhere. So so a lot of the ins and outs are just what you do prior to your travel experiences. Do your investigation. You might even, once you find out that there's a wonderful assignment in the Southwest in Arizona for you, and ask your recruiter or your recruiting company, is it possible for you to speak to a nurse that worked there previously, that worked in the cardiac progressive care unit in the particular hospital that you're considering, and can you speak to them? And they might tell you what really worked well, what surprised them, what they didn't like, and so forth. I mean, you do hear, I don't know what it is, but we pass on the bad news. I'm guilty of it too. We pass on the bad news readily, I want to say. I don't know, it comes to mind. It's traumatizing, right? So it sticks with you. So you will hear or see or read about a nurse saying, I went to this assignment, I was so excited, it was my first travel nurse assignment, and nobody would talk to me. Nobody would, help me with the simplest things, Orientation, I thought that was going to be a week's orientation. I got about 2 minutes, which may be an exaggeration. But so, and why is that? And they say it's because that I'm, the travel nurse is making more money and is resented. There I go, touching again. That there's a resentment from the staff about bringing in travelers and paying them more and so forth. So, your salary is your business. They don't know the sacrifices you've made to do what you're doing. Leaving your loved ones and your home and your pets, and, what transitions you went through to to try out this assignment. And you're taking an assignment because there is a need, there is a slot, and in COVID, the needs are very, very intense. The staff have either been asked to go into administrative positions because they cannot work with COVID patients, or it's they become ill. I mean, the staff is compromised. In any given time prior to the pandemic, there's a need for travelers for whatever reason, because healthcare is growing, the need is growing, the areas of nursing have grown, areas of healthcare that didn't even exist 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, have come into being, and areas that were small areas have grown into bigger areas. Telehealth is on my mind. I never used it. I knew about it, but I have used it since the pandemic. I'm actually in a couple of days going to speak to my primary doctor via telehealth and share data. And that's a personal thing, but I've never used it personally, and it's been there for years, but it's much more prevalent now. So so the need is there, and there's this sort of this cycle. There was less interest in the last 20 or 30 years in the healthcare field. So less nurses going, less students going to nursing school, less ultrasound techs, less all the different disciplines of healthcare. And so there were less educators for that. And so we had pretty much, and still are in, a crisis of not having enough healthcare workers. So the need is there for staff, for full-time, for per diem, for part-time, and for travel. And there's budgets for all of them. So if you hear or read or share with someone a bad story, a con, that may be so, but that's not the whole picture. And that's why I wanted to talk about the ins and outs, the pros and cons. Yes, you may sometimes have staff that are not helpful, and it may be one member of the staff, or it may be more than one. And I talked about a few weeks back, or maybe a month or so ago, about a nurse on a travel assignment that couldn't get anybody to collaborate with her on the simplest of things. And so she, when she had a chance, she went to the charge nurse and she said, look, I talk to people and I get blank stares. They won't tell me the simplest of things, like where's the manual for transfers, or where's can you help me find an item, you know, it's not in the clean utility. Is it stored somewhere else? And people were just not cooperating, not talking, not being part of the team. And nurses should be nurturing, particularly to one another. And she went to the charge nurse, and the charge nurse is, well, you're a traveler. That's the way it is. Deal with it. And so my suggestion, after reading something like that, is you have to use your chain of command. You have to ask for a meeting. Don't do it when you're shocked and upset, but you know, manage as best you can with people not sharing and collaborating and being part of, you know, being good team members, but escalate to the next level, to the director and so forth, and put a call into your travel company and to your recruiter and ask for some clinical advice there, because this is a problem. If you can't work in a cohesive environment, you can't do your best nursing. And if you're spending a lot of time looking for a manual or an item to do your job, you know, maybe it's an IV kit. So you're spending time gathering this and that from different places. What the simplest thing, you know, with the collaboration of your team, makes the work more successful, expedites the work, and so forth. So these are all important things. So, I've talked, I wish somebody would check in. I'm going to check some of my archived, I keep these little notes. Here's some notes I wrote a while back. Avoid burnout. There's numerous jobs, and it's fun. So these are the pros, right? We're looking at pros here. This is this is getting a little fuzzy because it's been in my cabinet here for a while. But maybe you're feeling okay. So 1, avoid burnout. 2, there's numerous jobs, and 3, you could have fun. The change of location, maybe go to a location where you could visit an aunt or an uncle or a cousin, and sightsee, right? So that's part of the adventure. So so those are some of the pros, right? You may have been at your job quite a while and worked very hard, and it's been a pandemic, worked physically and mentally exhausted, and maybe not feeling all the support in the world because your leaders are physically and emotionally exhausted. And I think this not knowing, I think through this year of the pandemic, of not really knowing, I mean, are the masks working? Will the vaccinations work? Did the mask I wear put me and my family at risk? I mean, all of these desperate questions. And then working with patients that are so ill and having to maneuver them in ways we never did before, all this proning of patients, and avoiding the respirators, then using the respirators, and it's been very, very difficult. So burnout is one way of looking at it. I think traumatized. I think a lot of practitioners have been traumatized and unable to get away from it. Even if you do get a week off, the news is constantly on. You can't just get on a plane and go to Puerto Vallarta, or oh gosh, so many lovely places one could vacation. But that hasn't been very available. Particularly, I think it will get a little better now with the vaccinations and so forth, and the fact that we are all practicing good hygiene and masking and better masks and all of that. It should improve a little bit. I don't know when some of these precautions will end in the public realm. They're still strong in the clinical realm. My mom, for example, is in an assisted living, which is connected to a nursing and rehab and a memory care. And they do a lot of practice to just barely lightening up and letting them do some 30-minute garden visits with social distancing. And they, instead of having, what did they used to have? 5 or 6 at a dinner table, at a round dinner table. They have 2 at a table and more dining schedules. So yeah, it's been a long, hard time. So burnout, go back to some of the pros of traveling, avoiding burnout, or recovering from burnout, or recovering from post-traumatic stress. The other one is the numerous jobs that you have choices. Maybe you want to try an assignment in Arizona. You may have a dozen different choices to choose from. It's very populated, particularly in Phoenix. And then the fun. You're in a new location. There's vistas. Maybe you live in a city, or maybe you live in the mountains, lots of snow and skiing. Well, maybe Arizona, desert life, different foods. Yeah, lots of fun, meeting new people. What did I write there? Oh, visiting. Yeah, you could potentially, maybe you have a friend that is in Arizona, or a relative. So that would make for fun on your assignment to be able to have a visit. So lots of pros and cons. And what else? See if I have anything else in my in my archives here, my little notes that I kept over these many. I'm looking at all my little, what is all this? Oh, no, cancer facts. I don't know how that came up. Well, there's a lot of, nah. They see, we had a lot of different topics, so they're not all applicable. So here is something that if you are a nurse and not feeling that love and collaboration from the staff, that you feel invisible, right? Then what you desire is to be seen, right? So, so I wrote these little notes. So maybe you need to see them and see what's going on with them. So I wrote tune into them. See if you can connect at their level. Reflect on what you're seeing. And work on developing a relationship and then mastering it. Now, these are things you're going to do with your patients as well. But the other side is, why are you getting this kind of, like the charge nurse told you, oh, well, you're a traveler, that's the way it is, deal with it. No, that's not acceptable. And so, so maybe that's it too, to see, try to see where they're at. As much as you want to be seen, you need to see them as well. They've been working short staff. They figured out how to manage it. And now, you know, maybe your questions are slowing them down and so forth. So you might want to say, if you see them in the break room having coffee or tea, or you get the same lunch schedule, feel them out, you know, listen. And what did I say? Try to connect, reflect, develop the relationship, and then master. All good ideas. All right, so I don't want to keep showing you cards. I'm not sure if they're all applicable. You know, and here's another thing. You may have heard this before. On assignment or on your in your staff position is that you reach out to someone to maybe just to for feedback. So you're making an assessment, you're following an order, and you just want their feedback. And the response is, okay, you could say, Nurse John, okay, you're a traveler and you see Nurse John, he's on staff, you've been working there for a week, and you're on similar schedules, and you say, hey, Nurse John, got a minute? I am taking care of so-and-so who's maybe been a patient there for a couple of weeks, and what do you think about this, that I got another order to titrate their heparin up? You're working on a cardiac unit, and Nurse John is really, really busy. You caught him at a bad moment, and he says, you know what, that's not my patient. I've never had that patient. I don't know what to tell you. It's not really the response you were going for from a team member, from a staff member, but that's okay. That's okay. It's your patient. You have to, if you get an order, if you don't have clarification, the doctor's not on the unit, you make a call, or you talk to the pharmacist, or you talk to your charge nurse. You know, don't take it personally, and you're there to take care of your patient and take care of yourself. So you don't want to have a debate with John. Obviously, his response was, it's not my patient. Don't ask me. I don't have information for you. Okay, fair enough. Not too pleasant. But maybe at some other point, having coffee in the break room, whatever, before shift, after shift, you know, maybe you can approach him and just say, you know, it seems like I really was bothering you when I asked about that patient. I'm sorry. Is there a time that we could discuss, you know, resources and so forth? What you do when you're looking for some feedback, when you have lack of understanding? I was just thinking, well, maybe you knew that patient, or maybe you knew that doc, and why they would want to start, you know, adding more heparin or whatever. You know, I certainly don't want to add difficulties to a busy day, but I think it'd be good if we could collaborate a little bit. So in a reasonable way, while you're traveling, you could make these connections. You could be sensitive to where they may be at. But if we're reactive, and it's tough when you think, I want to do the best job I can. I have a lot of skills. I have a lot of knowledge. I know what I'm doing, but I just like a little more feedback. Maybe talk to the charge nurse and let her know. You don't have to use names, and just say, sometimes I'm just looking for a little feedback, and I get, you know, the blank stare or not my patient, which really aren't good responses. A better response would be, I'm so sorry, I'm so busy right now. Can we talk at the end of the shift? Or did you know that Sally's in charge today? I'll have to talk to you later. You know, just letting them know your reason that you're focusing on your critical cardiac post-acute patients. Not that it's not my patient. Come on. You know, so maybe just the simple communicating language we use will make all the difference. And so try not to take it personally. There are lots and lots and lots of pros. Yes, there are cons. But this ain't heaven, man. This is life in the real travel world. Anyway, I am delighted to anybody that tuned in today. I apologize for it being Monday and not Tuesday. Something came up and I couldn't avoid it. I had to try to organize my mom's health care in one day, and Tuesday was the day I could arrange it. So I'll be back next Tuesday and every Tuesday between 10 and 11 Pacific Standard Time, talking about all things pertaining to travel nurses and travel healthcare workers, and hopefully sharing things that are of interest to you. My name is Rita. I'm going to sign out with a cute little travel nurse commercial and wish you all the best. And bye, Galam from Bangladesh. And thank you, Pat, for sharing your practitioner, your love of labor and delivery nursing. And be well, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do. And sponsors, anyone can sponsor, whether you're an individual, if you provide housing for nurses, for travelers, if you are a recruiting company, if you are a travel company, if you are a hospital. This is a place to connect with a lot of travel people. So take care. Happy travels. And real quick commercial. Thank you.
Travel nursing can bring you to places you've never been before. Tell us your story.